So officially welcome everybody, and thanks for participating. For your calendar books, I think the next one will be November 18th, which is Wednesday at 4 p.m. It'll be on Zoom or GoToMeeting, depending upon what people might prefer. I was looking at the calendar. The week after is obviously Thanksgiving. No sense having a webinar call during Thanksgiving week. So jot down November 18th, 4 p.m. Wednesday. Okay, great. So welcome everybody. I want to do three things today in my 15 minutes. I'll be finished by 4:50. Number one, I want to remind everybody that I just launched my book about 10 days ago. And on November 1st, I have an official launch of that at 3 p.m. November 1st, hosted by the publisher, Edwin Black. And if you don't have an announcement of that, just send me an email and I'll forward that announcement to everybody. The Multifront War, basically, I'm not going to go through it now, but it basically discusses, or tries to discuss, every issue you could think of facing the country in a coherent single book, putting together all the disparate good news and bad news that you're acquainted with. But everything's interrelated to everything. So I try to show the interrelationship of everything to everything. And when you order the book, if you haven't already, you have to, in Amazon, let's say, you have to put the Multifront War. Multifront is one word. If you make it two words, it doesn't get you there. Or you can do it under my official name, Kenneth Abramowitz. If you put Ken Abramowitz, it won't take you there. So it's an unforgiving site. But if you put the Multifront War or Kenneth Abramowitz, you'll get there. And please buy some extra copies for friends and relatives who would appreciate it, but only if they're going to appreciate it. Okay, so the issue of the day is the election. And I want to show you three slides about the election, or two slides about the election, that will help you understand. So first, let me just go. I'm going to share the screen, and I'm going to go to my file, and I'm going to show you one slide. Give me 1 second. Okay, here it comes. This is a slide that I showed last week, and I want to show it again this week, and I'm going to show you a new slide in just a few minutes. So this is the way to look at the election from the domestic point of view. In a few minutes, I'm going to show it from the international point of view. But from the domestic point of view, we basically have a battle between life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You won't see that expressed that succinctly, but if you just think about the issues that present themselves on TV or the internet or newspapers, I put the issues in my mind into those three buckets. Now, there's another way to say it, and looking at the left, where I say grow the economy, protect our culture, protect us physically. That's one way to look at it. And if you go to the right of the page where it says the Declaration of Independence in reverse order says life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Either construct gets you there. Those are the issues that show up again and again and again. And as a mental aid to yourself, as someone mentions some issue or you hear someone giving a speech, whether they're a good guy or a bad guy, take their thoughts and put them into those three buckets. It'll help you remember better what the speaker had to say. And as just as an aside, it's nothing to do with the election, but in the Bible, in the Torah, 2 of the issues dealt with the economy or happiness. 1 issue dealt with physical protection or life. 7 of the 10 commandments deals with culture. And so one way you could look at what's happening now is we're going through a culture war. And with on one side believing in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the other side rejecting life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, as hard as that is to believe. And we're not good at fighting culture wars. The bad guys are very good at fighting culture wars. And in this election and then in the aftermath, we're going to have to do a better job defending our culture and denigrating their culture of darkness. You could say it's an old fight between light and darkness. And we have to express, the forces of light have to express how good they are, and they simultaneously have to express how bad the forces of black, of evil are. And we have to be better at that. So this is just a quick way to look at the election from the domestic point of view. Now what I'm going to do is show you from the international point of view how to look at the election. So I'm going to take this slide down. And I'm going to show one more slide, but on a PowerPoint. So here we go. Okay, so the PowerPoint, my face shows up here. And so I'm going to explain this slide to you, which I hadn't shown before. I've discussed it before, but didn't show it before. And it's color-coded. Democracies, which I consider good, are also known as Western civilization. It's also known as the rule of law, we the people, minority rights, peaceful transitions of governments. And I color-coded yellow for the sunlight of Western civilization, the sunlight of 3,800 years of progress, so to speak, in bringing power to the people and let the people rule themselves, country by country, state by state. Now, against us are the forces of evil, which I call dictatorships. And not all dictatorships, they can be just plain authoritarian governments. But these authoritarian or dictatorships, governments, show up also color-coded. They're either red or they're green. Because half the world lives in authoritarian governments, half the world lives in democracies. And the reds are the traditional color for communism. China, North Korea could be here, Russia, which is not a communist country anymore, but because of their authoritarian nature of the country, I put them in the red category. And then we have the greens, which is Islam, but in particular political Islam, the politicization of the religion of Islam. And here you have countries like Iran, Turkey, Qatar, which are financing the Muslim Brotherhood. We have ISIS, or Islamic State, IS, and Al-Qaeda. And we have the Wahhabis from Saudi Arabia, who are in a transition, hopefully, to yellow. They are moving in our direction. They are close to normalizing relations with Israel, which is a very important sign. They gave the green light, no pun intended, to Bahrain and the Emirates and Sudan to move towards Israel. And one by one, the Sunni Arab countries who had been enemies with Israel for 70 years, and you could say also been enemies for 1,400 years since Islam was founded 1,400 years ago. They are now, hopefully this is for real, treating Islam as a religion and not a political movement. By that I mean no longer trying to take over other countries through Islam, and more accepting the right of Jews to be Jews and Christians to be Christians, and without imposing Islamism on them. This is a very important development. But for historical reasons, I include the Wahhabis or Saudi Arabia here because only 20 years ago, when we were attacked on 9/11 by 19 terrorists, 15 out of the 19 were from Saudi Arabia. So we can't forget that, but it's certainly a positive development that's going on. And I have a theory that if we, the yellows, stay strong, one by one, the reds and the greens will move towards us and become more like us. The alternative is that the reds and greens prevail and we become more like them. And you could say that's what this election is about. The election is, are we going to stay yellow for the sunlight of Western civilization? Or are we going to be taken over by the reds and the greens culturally? I don't mean physically, culturally. So that we become like them. Well, I want them to become like us. I don't want us to become like them. So this is the worldwide way to look at the election. So because the bad guys don't stay where they are, just because the bad guys are in China, they don't stay in China. And Russia doesn't stay in Russia. They're financing the bad guys. They're financing Antifa and Black Lives Matter, or they're encouraging them, or they're advising them. And the same with the Greens. So the battles that we're fighting are worldwide in nature, and the bad guys are exacerbating the problems facing the country. And we basically have no choice but to win. We could not become a colony of the Reds or a colony of the Greens. And this election will determine that fate. And it's a little scary, obviously, if the bad guys win. So I'm at fourth. Well, I have one more thing to say in one more minute. And so think of some questions. I'm going to stop the sharing here. So think of some questions over the next minute. And the one more thing I should add, the difference between the good guys and the bad guys is good guys would say one person, one vote. Everybody has the right to vote. We're all created equal. We're all equal under the law. Every one person, one vote. The bad guys would say one person, one vote, one time. And that's why we can't let the bad guys win, because they're no longer loyal to the democrat process. And they're really dictators or authoritarians in disguise. And they will lose that disguise if they were to win. So I'm going to stop here. And if someone wants to speak, let me know. You can, and I can unmute you, and I can make you a panelist, and you can talk to the group. Or if you prefer, you can just send a message. So I can see someone raised their hand. Let me see if I can find who raised their hand. Here, let's go down to the questions. Oh, how can we fight the culture war? Academic monopoly by the left in the media makes things pretty difficult. That's right. That's why I wrote my book, because there's 40 different things that we have to do to win. And one of them is we have to regain control over the educational system. We have to take control over the elementary schools through school choice, so that people can take their kids to whatever school they want. And we have to take control over the universities by basically declaring them to be political organizations and take away their tax-exempt status unless they reform themselves. In the media, The media is basically an arm of the Democrat Party. I think we have to put warning labels on, so that if you watch CNN, there should be a warning label, caution, this network accommodates Democrats over 90% of the time, and you could construe them to be a propaganda arm of the Democrat Party. So I basically have to embarrass them. Okay, isn't red or green about Soros? Is Soros red or green? Soros is every combination of evil you could think of. So he, you see, the reds and the greens think alike. And they both want to take over the world and make everybody their slave. By the way, that's the way the world used to run thousands of years ago. And they call themselves progressives. They're actually regressives. They want to take us back into time thousands of years ago. And Soros wants to be the dictator. So Soros has elements of red and green in him. But the one common thread that runs throughout Soros is he's authoritarian dictator, or wannabe. And he wants to be king of the world. And obviously we can't allow that. Let's see, I also have some chats here. Oh, someone says, my book is fabulous, thank you very much. It needs to be mandatory reading. Well, that's great, but Republicans don't believe in mandatory anything. So unfortunately, the president could not say, read the book or we put you in jail. The Democrats, by the way, could say, burn the book or we'll put you in jail. And this person says the Democrats need to wake up. Think of it this way. A third of the people, let's divide the population into a third, a third, a third. A third of the people are what I call normal. I have two definitions of normal. People who believe in the Constitution and Bill of Rights and Bible. Whether it's Old Testament, Torah, or New Testament, or the evangelicals, Old plus New. That's my definition of normal. The other definition of normal for the third of the population is anyone who agrees with me. So those are my two definitions of normal. Then we have 1/3 of the people who are abnormal. We have a special name for them. They're called Democrats. The battlefront is over the third in the middle. They're called independents. I call them trees because they sway. And the goal of the good guys and the bad guys is to get those people to sway to them. And we have to get them to sway to us. And that's another reason why I wrote the book. Not that I'm going to reach millions and millions of independents, but it's part of my role and all of our roles to better communicate to the independents and move them to what I call the normal state. Okay, let's see. Let me check a few other things here. In regarding Western civilization, in the book you write about Judeo-Christian tradition. What about the Greco-Roman tradition? Well, we didn't get to where we are all by ourselves. This has been a 3,800-year journey through civilization. I started with Abraham 3,800 years ago. Then there was the Torah, the Old Testament, 3,300 years ago. Then the Greeks and Romans, roughly 2,500 years ago, 2,000 years ago for the Romans, who had their form of democracy or dictatorship, depending on the time period. Jesus, 2,000 years ago. The Magna Carta, 800 years ago. And then developments in Europe, the Enlightenment in Europe after the Middle Ages, and then the formation of America, Constitution, Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence, and here we are 3,800 years later. So we're part of a long chain. We're part of a long chain of success. And the bad guys, the reds and the greens, want to destroy 3,800 years of progress. They call themselves progressives. They're not progressives, they're regressives. They want to take us back 3,800 years ago, before the formation of democracy, where the dictators made all the decisions, and they want to be the dictators so that they can steal all the money, leave 98% of us in poverty, and they'll be the kings, and we can't allow that to happen, obviously. Okay, let's see. If someone wants to talk in person, also just let me know, and I'll make you a panelist, and then you can talk in person instead of just asking a question. Let's see if we have any more questions. I answered 3 questions. I have 2 open. Okay, so yeah, I answered the questions. So let's see. Well, here we are. It's 4:23. Let's see if some people have some more questions in the next 7 minutes, and otherwise we'll call it quits after half an hour. So let's see if anybody wants to say anything else. And for the people who came in late, let me remind you to get the Multifront War book from Amazon or Barnes & Noble. You have to input it exactly 3 words, the Multifront, no hyphen, war, or under my official name, Kenneth Abramowitz. And then you'll get to the book, and buy some for your friends, relatives, and on Sunday at 3 o'clock, I'm having an official launch of the book. I'm not launching the book today. I'm talking about the election, but we have an official launch on November 1st by my editor, Edwin Black, editor and publisher. And if anyone didn't get that message or wants it, you just send me an email or a message, and I'll get that to you. Okay, so there's a few more questions here. People here agree with you. How do you get this information to the rest of the people? Well, yeah, thank you very much. Sure. I'm doing everything possible to publicize my book. As my publisher says to me, you have to market the book every single day. So so I have my website, Save the West. I have my Thought of the Week, which highlights the book. I have special conference calls on the book. People like you, the word of mouth are very important to the book. You can write a comment on Amazon. That helps a little bit. Every little bit helps. I have emails out to about 10 different personalities volunteering to be on their TV shows. That'll help. And so I'm basically going to be marketing this book every single day for the next 6 months. And then I'll update it. Once you have a book, it's much easier to update it than to actually write a book in the first place. Here's a question. How is Europe responding to this war? Europe's not responding well. Europe, I give a grade of D, America grade of B, Israel B. Europe, the trouble with Europe is there's 20 different countries in the European Union, and they operate by consensus. But by the time 27 countries agree on something, you can't agree on anything on a timely basis. So Europe basically has to disband the EU, go back to individual countries, but keep the trade union. There's nothing wrong with the trade union, but you can't have a superstructure government called the EU running the EU. Germany should worry about Germany, and France should worry about France, and they have to basically dismantle 80% of the EU and just make it a customs trade organization. And here's someone volunteering for a good review. Thank you very much. That would be great. So let's see. There are some chats. Let me check some chats. Where do the Chinese people fit in? Well, the Chinese people are basically servants or slaves of the Chinese Communist Party, which I'm told is run by 800 families. So those 800 families are pretty happy, obviously, and they're stealing all the money. But China has done one very, very innovative thing for a dictatorship. They've created an economy that works. Very unusual. Usually dictatorships don't create economies that work because the leaders are so busy stealing all the money that they don't even care about the economy. But China does have an economy that works. So the people basically can make money, they can work, and they just have to keep their mouth shut and not say anything bad about the government, stay out of politics, and just focus on on their own economic well-being, and then they can do just fine. Ultimately, the Chinese Communist Party, like all dictatorships, will fall. And that's one of the reasons why they're working hard to make our government fall, because they're afraid that if they don't get us to fall, we might get their government to fall. And that's the international basis of the competition in this election coming up. Okay, let me see if there's one more question. And it's now 4:28. We'll go 2 more minutes. And let's see, anybody else have a last question in the next 2 minutes? All right, does anyone want me to make them a panelist, and do they want to say something to everybody? So here's your chance to be a speaking video participant on this call, if someone quickly wants to think of something to say. Another thing you can keep in mind is over time, I'm going to be doing book tours. If anyone ever does book tours ever again instead of webinar tours. And if someone wants to put together 25 of their friends as socially distanced in like a synagogue or church or something like that, school, I would, auditorium of some sort, I'd be happy to show up with enough notice. And because I think my book captured the key issue facing society, which is that everything's interrelated with everything. It's like, think of it, I come from the healthcare industry. It's like reading books by orthopedic surgeon about knees and hips. And then you say, gee, what about the heart? And then you read a book by a cardiologist specialist or a surgeon specialist or whatever, ophthalmologist specialist. And I said to myself, well, you know, the body, just as the body's interrelated to each other, to itself, well, so are all the problems and challenges and opportunities that we face. They're also interrelated with each other. So I tried to create an all-encompassing understanding of how the forces of good and evil interact among themselves and with each other, and then try to think about how to help the forces of good defeat the forces of evil. So I spent 5 years, 20 years unofficially thinking about this book, and 5 years officially thinking about this book, and then 2 years focused on the book, and then 3 months rushing it through the publishing process to get it out before the election. So if anyone wants to help me in marketing, just as yourself, as your family, with your friends, with your comments, I obviously very much appreciate it. So again, let me remind you that November 18th, we'll meet again. That's a Wednesday, 4 p.m. We'll do it either through Zoom or a GoToMeeting. Some people prefer one or the other, but we'll pick one, and it'll be an aftermath of the election. Hopefully the election will be over November 18th. Given the amount of chaos that the evil forces of evil are capable of creating, it could be in the midst of chaos, and we may not have an answer for December or even January. So a lot of strange things coming up November 4th. The government's not exactly ready for a lot of strange things. I hope they're ready, but it's not obvious that they're ready. And my next thought of the week, which you'll get on Monday, will be some things the government can do to get ready for November 4th. So I want to thank everybody for their time. And yes, a friend of mine commented, yes, all the issues are interconnected. And that's exactly the way I look at it. And that's why I put this book together, to show the interrelationship of everything to everything. So I will stop here. So thank you, everybody, for your time. And I look forward to seeing all of you November 18th at 4 p.m. Wednesday. And make sure you're subscribed to SaveTheWest.com. Make sure you're getting my thought of the week. Make sure you order the book. You can order the book, by the way, on my website. Just click and it takes you right to Amazon. And I appreciate all your support. Thank you very much. And I'll sign out now. Goodbye to everybody.